I passed by Jihyo in the hall, carrying a large canvas. Hi. She jumped when she saw me, scrambled to hide the painting she was holding, dropped it, picked it up, rammed it into her still closed door, clawed at the door handle until she got it open, threw the canvas inside, and shut the door. I stared at her. She opened her door again and followed her canvas into her room, closing the door firmly behind her. Don't tell me she forgot to go inside the first time. Just what was on that canvas that she was so eager to hide from me? Art. Hey, Flynn! Aussie came up to me as I was in the kitchen making some soup. She glanced at the pot and whistled. I didn't know you could cook. Can't really call this cooking. It's mostly potatoes and water. You're rather humble. I've always liked men who could cook. I don't even know how to cook myself. Yeah, well... I tried to look less pleased than I felt, but I'm not sure if I succeeded. Would you mind if I had some? It looks really good. Yeah, there may not be enough. Sorry, Aussie. There may not be enough. Oh, well, thanks anyways, I guess. She left. As it turned out, there was more than enough for two, but in the end I was glad I got to eat alone. I'm cock-blocking Flynn. Today I got back my first paper from my literature class, covered in red marks. Apparently, even though they knew I was American, I was expected to use British spelling at all times. Weren't we supposed to be joined by a common language? I would have to reset the spell check on my laptop to remind me about all these extra U's and words. Well, it was all part of the English experience, I supposed. I'd just have to get used to it. Still, rather rude. I was on my way back to the hostel when I saw something jammed into the front door. Was that really the end of a volleyball net? Why would someone be trying to drag a volleyball net inside?
Bloody worthless piece of crap! Tilt already!
Oh. I decided to walk around the block a bit more before going back to my room. Yep. As I went about my tasks, I noticed Brendan closeted in the office with Oscar, the owner. He seemed to spend a lot of time in there. I wondered why, but then I wondered why Brendan had a job here at all, considering how bad he was at it. Sometime later, I was passing through the supply closet when I heard a crash in the kitchen and went running. Brendan stood over a broken plate looking absolutely furious. Flynn! How could you do that? I'm going out to tell Oscar about this. What? But I didn't. Whatever. I'll fix this up. You just go do something else. Fuming, I turned on my heel and left the room.
Well, it depends on if we can take Brendan's word for what he said to Malia about his boss.
There might be a reason he's in there.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't met our boss at the Crafty Crown, because we met the Francesca, I think her name was, at the hotel.
In early February, Danny's soccer team had their first match. He formally invited the entire hostel to come see it if they wanted, but let everyone know he wouldn't hold it against them if they didn't show up. Not surprisingly, not everyone wanted to go. In the end, Ashley, Peggy, and I walked to the park together, tiny flags in our hands. Ashley was such a nice girl that she couldn't possibly turn down the invitation, but Peggy seemed particularly excited about cheering for Danny. I knew Peggy and Danny were good friends, but seeing the way they interacted...
I was a little jealous of her.
I couldn't help but want to be the one whose cheers pumped him up the most. After all, Danny was almost the father of the hostel. He was always looking after everybody. In fact, from everything I knew about him, he seemed almost unrealistically perfect. He was smart, kind, thoughtful, attractive, and super fit on top of that. Not that I'd seen much of his body. I mean, it wasn't like I walked around the hostel hoping for a glimpse. Nope. That would be weird. He rarely procrastinated, had good organizational skills, he was managing a team while keeping up with his schoolwork. He was just generally impressive. So it was natural for me to want to cheer for such a helpful, attractive, and kind man. Wasn't it?
Woo! Go Danny!
Danny, now dashing out onto the field for the first time, looked into the stands and saw us. He beamed and waved, and Peggy waved frantically back. I held up a hand and smiled, and then he was in, focused on the game. I took some pictures on my phone, thinking they might be useful at some point in the future. Definitely not to stare at them later in the privacy of my bedroom. His team won the game, as was expected. Danny the flawless. So flawless it was almost suspicious. I suppose it isn't fair to be suspicious of him just because he's a great person. There have to be some people like him in the world.
Pardon? Did you say something?
Nope. We crossed to the end of the field to congratulate Danny on his win, waiting for him to finish his team's victory speech before approaching.
Danny! You did it! Good job!
Peggy jumped into his arms as soon as he turned around. Thanks, Peggy.
Congratulations!
Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me.
Of course! It's the least we could do. So are we going to go out for a celebratory drink or something?
No, that's all right. I've got some work to do back at the hostel. Been neglecting my studies a bit.
Really? That's not like you at all. Come on, a little drink wouldn't hurt.
No, I'm fine. He said it firmly, and although he wasn't being rude, his humorless attitude killed the celebratory atmosphere.
Well, okay. That's fine then. I bet we've all got work to do anyways. Are we walking back together?
He shook his head. I have a few other things to do on the pitch. Sorry.
Ah, it's fine. Well, good game. I guess we'll head home then. It was very nice seeing you.
Danny nodded, and Peggy, Ashley, and I headed for the hostel. We got to the edge of the park when I patted my pockets. Something was missing. Oh no! My phone!
Don't tell me you left it back there. Or want us to come with you to get it?
No, it's fine. It'll only be a moment. I dashed back to the field and searched the bleachers where we had been sitting, but found nothing. My panic was rising when I saw Danny waving at me from down on the field, something glinting in his hand. My phone! I ran over to him and he cheerfully dangled it from his hand. You should really get a better lock on your phone. Got some good shots of me, though. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sure you don't. Awkward? What should I do? What should I say to make this better? Anyways, congratulations on winning the game. I know I didn't say it earlier. You definitely deserved it. You're a great team captain. You're great at everything. I really admire you. His face darkened and he shook his head. Don't say that. Why not? He held up a hand and shook his head. I don't want to talk about it, but please don't act like I'm a great person. I'm not. I don't deserve it, so don't say it. All right. Right. Now aren't the other two waiting on you? Oh yeah, I guess I'll talk to you later then. Cheers. I left the field, too wrapped up in what just happened to hurry much.
It's about time. Had trouble finding it.
Yeah, but Danny found it for me.
Oh, how sweet of him. Anyways, let's get back. Ashley says she's going to make some flapjacks to celebrate.
I nodded, not sure whether I should tell her that Danny might not appreciate the celebration. Most people were humble just for show, but something about the way Danny said what he did made me think he sincerely, earnestly believed that there was something wrong with him. But what made him feel that way about himself? What was wrong? Well, we'll find out eventually. Again. I had just changed out of my work uniform and sat down at my desk to write a letter to my mother when... my door slammed open and Peggy entered, walking like a zombie. Peggy, is something wrong? She looked at me, tears filling her eyes.
Oh, Flynn! This world is full of heartless assholes who only think about themselves.
Uh-oh, you figured it out? She shot me a glare and I chuckled. Okay, but what really happened? She cast her eyes down at the floor and started drawing circles with her foot.
My petition.
I'm guessing you didn't manage to reach 5,000 signatures? She gave a heavy sniff, confirming my thoughts.
I'm surprised we can still hug her.
Maybe next time? It'll be alright. This is just a minor setback in the grand scheme of things. I know you. You'll pull through in no time and find another small way to help save the Earth. We don't have recycling here at the hostel, after all. You could badger James about that. She sniffled, looking oddly fragile for a girl who on a regular day could knock down walls. Do you want to sit down or something? She nodded meekly, then Zombie walked over to my bed. She fell into it like a lump of clay.
I know I can't give up now, but I'm just so frustrated. Nobody cares, but they should. If they cared a little bit more, the world would be so much better. But they don't want to feel bad, so they don't. There's a literal holocaust going down in North Korea, and does anyone care? No. They're all just worried about the little gardens, while people are suffering. And I can't even blame them is the sad part.
I nodded and Peggy yawned.
Oh, it's just not fair, and if I could...
Peggy? I glanced at her. She was fast asleep, mouth open on my pillow. Now that I was looking at her, she had heavy bags under her eyes, and her hair looked more frazzled than usual. When was the last time she slept? In light of that, I let her have a nap on my bed. At least she didn't snore much. It wasn't until late that night that Peggy opened her eyes again.
What? Where am I?
You fell asleep in my room. Mid-sentence, might I add.
Seriously? What time is it? Oh my god, 9 already? I have work to do. I'm way off schedule.
Peggy! How much stuff are you doing?
Not that much. I mean, I'm a chemistry major and I like to study biology in my spare time, so there's a bit of homework from that. And then my part-time job, the volleyball team and the green clubs, and my mates have a band on weekends.
You're doing all of that? How? She shrugged. Well, it's your life, but you might want to remember to put sleep on your schedule too.
Right. Well, I'd better go. Cheers!
She bounced out of the room, already back at full volume. Just watching her was exhausting. I wished her well, but I knew I could never keep up with her. Anyway, I should get back to work. I crept into the dining area, following my nose. Somebody had cooked something lovely. I was met by Aussie, Brendan, Ashley, and to my utter surprise, Jihyo. Ashley looked up and smiled when I came in. Hello, everyone. I glanced at the plate loaded with food in the center of the table. Is there room for another? Brendan narrowed his eyes and opened his mouth to respond, but...
Of course! The more the merrier.
Brendan glared at me, but shut his mouth. The decision had been made.
Meh.
Nodding my thanks, I dished up some food for myself and took a seat with the others. I hadn't seen much of Jihyo around the hostel, but it didn't seem like I would be able to get to know her very well in this group of people. Aussie and Brendan were deep in a discussion about some spat between a celebrity couple, each on total opposite sides of the debate. Ashley kept trying to make peace, but they were not having it. Jihyo, meanwhile, quietly ate her food and observed. After a while, I drew out Ashley's attention and we began a conversation about different kinds of food we liked and restaurants we had been to. Jihyo didn't join in, but she turned her deep brown eyes on me and I grew hot under her gaze. It was so... intense. Like having the weight of 1,000 rocks hung on my shoulders. Despite that, I actually got her to laugh a few times, and Ashley and I had fun. As the conversation went on, I suddenly noticed the rest of the room was quiet. Aussie and Brendan had stopped arguing and were now staring at me. I don't know why, but their stares felt different from Jihyo's. Brendan's especially made me uncomfortable. I did my best to ignore the feeling of being judged and carry on. Eventually, we finished our meal and I helped Ashley clean up after everyone else left. Thanks for another great meal, Ashley. She blushed and shook her head.
No problem.
It was an odd evening, but a pleasant one.
Oh, Brendan. So aggro.
While I was eating breakfast with Mark, Jihyo, and Aussie, James came in. You... the yard again? He closed his mouth and nodded. Bushes need trimming. By tonight or you're out. He left the room. We traded looks. There weren't a whole lot of bushes around the hostel, so it shouldn't be too large a job. But it was still February, still cold, and this still wouldn't be much fun. We went outside. Mark walked away and returned with 3 pairs of garden shears. He gave one to Jihyo and one to Aussie, then shrugged at me.
There were only 3.
With that, he went to the end of the walkway. Aussie humphed and went to the other, while Jihyo started by the front steps. Well, I couldn't just leave them to it, could I? Who should I help?
Nobody.
I shrugged my shoulders and went inside. They had it handled and I had better things to do.
Not interested in any y'all this time around.
Another chance to explore the city. I set out in the opposite direction as last time, heading for King's Cross Station. Why be in London if you can't see the best sights? Apparently the station was remodeled at some point recently, but there was still a tourist spot with platform 9 3/4 in it. It was amazing that a series of kids' books made such a big cultural impact that they were genuinely memorialized. A familiar woman stood in the middle of the square before King's Cross section, serenely painting the exterior of the new building. I ducked behind a food cart, despite the fact that I didn't need to. There were more than enough people wandering around. She shouldn't be able to notice me. I couldn't explain why I was doing this either, but something about her intensity intrigued me. Her face contorted this way and that as if she was trying to embody great emotions. But it was just a building in front of her. What exactly was she trying to do? As I watched her brushstrokes grew shorter and more staccato, and she took more and more breaks to stand and stare at the canvas, cocking her head to the side. Her shoulders hunched up to her ears, and then she began stabbing the canvas with her brush. Uh-oh. She was getting angry. Maybe I ought to do something?
Joke about Star Wars.
I crept alongside her and watched her stabbing the canvas, probably ruining her brush. Is it dead yet? She jumped.
When did you get here?
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
What?
I'm just joking with you. What are you working on? A self-portrait? She did not look pleased.
Clearly not. Clearly not. It's clearly not, right? It doesn't look like a self-portrait. How could it look like a self-portrait? I don't look like that. That's so rude.
No, I didn't. I was trying to mess with you.
Well, you mess with me, all right. You're so insensitive. You don't...
She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly deflating.
I mean, never mind. I get it, bro.
Bro?
Yeah, man. I get it. It was a joke. Super cool. Chill. Never mind. I think I'm done for the day. I'm gonna head back.
Did you go into the station to see the platform already?
Yeah, I did that already. Actually, I have an errand to run. I need to leave.
Oh, okay. I got the feeling she didn't want me tagging along. I watched as she packed up her things and tucked the still wet canvas under her arm. I'll see you back at the hostel?
I'm sure you will.
In hindsight, making fun of her painting was a terrible idea. Way to go, Flynn. Well, at least I could carry on with my sightseeing. As it turned out, Platform 9 3/4 was nowhere near Platform 9. I only found it because of the crowd of people waiting in line to have their pictures taken running into the wall. Amusingly, the new location was fairly near the station's complaints department, for anyone who got too fed up with the whole thing. Hooray. So we're a bro this time around. I woke up early on Valentine's Day feeling quite lonely. When I was a little kid, Valentine's was a fun day, where everyone in class would trade tiny paper cards and candy hearts. But when we were older, it got weird to give Valentines to people who were just your friends. And since I'd never been in a relationship, I'd never gotten a serious Valentine. It was hard not to feel overwhelmed sometimes by all the romantic advertising and decoration around NYC. Buildings flashed red with hearts and roses. Couples posed by the love statue for photographs. Of course, James couldn't be bothered to decorate the hostel for a holiday, so at least there was none of that here. Still, I felt lonely. Jinsu and Nene sent me their best wishes by email, but explained that postage was too expensive, so they didn't bother to mail me real cards. Probably for the best, considering their going-away present. They might think it was funny to send an obscene Valentine. This trip was supposed to be my fresh start of romance. Why was I still alone? I paged through old messages on my phone, feeling more than a little sorry for myself. There was a quiet knock at the door, and I slid out of bed to answer it.
Happy Valentine's Day, Flynn.
Ashley held a small wrapped package out to me. What's this?
I got you a present. Happy Valentine's.
Ashley, I had no idea. Does this mean she liked me? I didn't get you anything. I feel terrible.
No, don't be silly. I don't want anything in return. All I want is your happiness. Everybody should be happy on Valentine's Day.
At that point, I realized she had a bag slung over her shoulder filled with tiny packages.
I've got to give presents to everyone else. See you later.
So it wasn't because she liked me, it was because she liked everyone. Well, it was still really sweet of her. I shut the door and eagerly unwrapped the present. A small stuffed animal grinned up at me, a bunny with glasses and a red scarf. He looked like a miniature Harry Potter, and I laughed when I saw him. I set him on the nightstand next to my bed and smiled. Thanks, Ashley. Happy Valentine's to you too. So sweet. I passed by Ashley in the hall. Wait, that was strange. I'm sure that when I first saw her, she was strutting down the hall doing a sashay, as if she were walking down a catwalk. But when I turned to look again, she was walking normally. I guess I just had a weird image in my mind for some reason. I mean, she'd look great on a catwalk, even if she's not as tall as models are these days. Get a grip, Flynn. I shook my head and went on my way. Totally unnecessary extra line of dialogue, but I love it. Or inner monologue, whatever. I came back to my room to pick up a notebook I had forgotten, and passed by Danny in the hall. His face was dark, an expression I had never seen before on it. He looked furious, but not in a blind rage. He had the eyes of a man plotting a very cold revenge. It was so out of place compared to his normal demeanor that it was almost as if he were possessed. He saw me after a few seconds and smiled. Hey, Flynn. Perfectly normal, like nothing was ever wrong, except for the shiver running up my spine. I have to go. I hurried to my room and closed the door. Whatever was wrong, it had nothing to do with me, I hoped. Spooky. Oh yay, more work shenanigans. Hey, Flynn. What do you want? My shift's over. I'm about to leave. Someone just vomited up a storm in the men's room. Yeah? And? Brendan pointed to a mop leaning against a wall. Go ahead. It's your job, isn't it? No, it's not. It is now. He left for the bar out front. That son of a... I charged after him, intending to give him a piece of my mind.
Is everything okay, Flynn?
Flynn here was just volunteering to take care of the mess in the bathroom.
That's so nice of you!
Yeah, it is.
No, give him a piece of your mind.
I was in the library working on some computer problems when suddenly Peggy ran up to me.
Flynn, you have to help me! I was catching up on my homework and I lost track of time, and I have these chem exercises and I need the reference book for them, and it's an hourly checkout and I'm not done, and...
I could barely follow what she was saying when she started talking this quickly.
The rules say the same person can't renew a reference, because if they did, they could hog it, and I don't mean to hog it, but I'm not done, and can you please go check this out on your card?
I paused for a moment while my brain caught up with all of that. I'm not sure that's a good idea. There's usually a waiting list for reference books. If I take it back to the counter, it'll just go to the next person who requested it. Her face fell.
But I'm not done!
So, keep it until you're done and then return it. You only need another hour, right? The fine won't be that big. Or, actually, if you know what pages you need, maybe you should just photocopy them. Then you can take the book back for the next person. She looked even more distraught, and I tried to figure out my mistake. I guess photocopies are wasting paper, but you can recycle them, right?
I don't have any money with me.
Oh. I reflexively patted my pockets, but I didn't really have much to spare, considering. Here. Whoa, Ninja Mark! Where did he come from? He handed a copy card to Peggy. Get what you need, then bring it back. Without even waiting for a response, he turned and walked back towards the philosophy section.
Huh. He's not so bad sometimes.
He's actually pretty great. I was on my break from work, munching on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when James came running at me out of nowhere. Flynn! What? Oscar needs tomatoes. Go get him some tomatoes. What? Oscar at the pub? I'm on my break. Well, Ashley hasn't come to work yet, and I just used the last tomato on my sandwich for lunch. So now Oscar's pissed at me, and someone's gotta get the replacements. This is an emergency, and if you don't do it, I'll dock your pay. What? Fine. Jeez, I'm going. He threw a 20-pound note into my lap and dashed back to the restaurant. 20 pounds? How many tomatoes did he want? Better get going. I dashed through the street, heading for a market nearby that I knew sold fresh produce. Hopefully they'd have enough on hand to... Wait. Was that Ashley? She was talking to 3 men. But then maybe talking wasn't the right word. They were crowding around her uncomfortably, blocking her from the sight of anyone else on the street. Uh-oh. I did not like the looks on their faces. Was she in trouble? I had a job to be doing, but so did she. It wasn't like her to be late to work. Ashley was always so conscientious.
Gosh. I don't know. I'm getting all these Ashley scenes. Save Ashley? Boop. I say... Sorry, I'm like thinking about this way too hard. I say we should jump in when it's her route and let her handle this on her own now. Hopefully she doesn't die.
I was probably overreacting. Ashley didn't look upset. If she wanted to hang around with strange guys, that was her decision. I bought the tomatoes and hurried back to the hostel, though I barely had time to sit down before I had to get back to work at the pub. Ashley still wasn't there when I arrived. Before I could get too worried, though, she finally appeared. It looked like everything was fine after all.
She doesn't look fine, though. Sorry, Ashley.